Started it. Yeah. Good evening and a warm welcome to everyone here from Talking Films Online, TFO for short. TFO was founded almost on a whim by Professor Nikhila and myself in June 2020 during the lockdown. Since then, TFO has had uninterrupted discussions on films from all over the world every Saturday at 9 p.m. on Zoom. It is a group of film scholars, researchers, students, teachers, and anyone passionate about cinema. It has been our practice to invite people to select and lead the discussion of the chosen film, which we watch in our own time and place. On some occasions, filmmakers, editors, and cinematographers have also joined our sessions. Aparna Sen, Girish Kasarvalli, and Adur Gopalakrishnan, to name a few. We have held film festivals such as East European, Iranian, Women's Cinema, and others. In the month of June each year, to celebrate our anniversary, we hold a smartphone short film making contest for students and also organize a lecture series in collaboration with colleges and university departments. Today, to open the discussion of Mrinal Sen's film interview, we have with us Asoke Kumar Bhattacharya. Asoke Kumar Bhattacharya retired as professor and head, Department of Adult Continuing Education and Extension, Jadavpur University, Kolkata. He has been Director and Chief Executive Officer, Roop Kala Kendro, Film and Social Communication Institute, Government of West Bengal, and as Chairman, International Forum for Studies in Society and Religion. His book, Race Sojourn with Opu on Opu Trilogy, will be published soon. He is the recipient of several international awards as well as special honors by the Government of India. Welcome to Asoke Kumar Bhattacharya. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Madam Professor. It's really an honor for me to have been invited and to speak something on a film by Mrinal Sen. But at the very outset, I must mention that I am grateful to my friend V.K. Cherian for introducing me to Professor Nikhila. And due to her initiative, I am now speaking on Mrinal Sen's interview. Needless to mention that such exercise every Saturday, discussing a film and seeing it before is extremely difficult to continue over years. I congratulate Madam Geeta Viswanathan and Madam Nikhila for doing this over these years, right from 2020 onwards. The real beneficiaries are the students and activists of cinema. I am really thankful to both of them and also the participants today who will be giving me the opportunity to talk to them. So my job is to discuss on a film by Mrinal Sen called Interview. In 1971, it was released. Before going to the film, let me say a few words about Mrinal Sen himself. He was born on 14th May 1923 in Faridpur in Bangladesh. The family was close to Mahatma Gandhi and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. He came to Calcutta in 1940 and got admitted to Scottish Church College. He was a Mufassil boy, quite unfit in the great and crowded city of Calcutta. A love-hate relationship developed. Saw 1943, the Great Famine. The experience was devastating and was reflected in this film Akale Shandhane and many other works. Partition of Bengal in 1947. And even before that, 1946, the Great Calcutta Riot. So it was from 1947 onwards, his family also came down to Kolkata, and they had a refugee life. You know what is life as a refugee. They had their own houses and everything over there, leaving everything. They came and stayed in a small flat in Park Circus of Calcutta, in the center of Calcutta. But during this period, after his studies and his family came over, he started meeting friends like Salil Chowdhury, Ritik Ghatak, Rishikesh Mukherjee, and Nipen Ganguly, amongst others. They used to go to his house in Paxakas. Also, they used to have a gossip at Paradise Cafe, North Calcutta. And he came close to the Communist Party. He has said that he was an accidental filmmaker. He has written a book, Mrinal Sen, Always Being Born, a memoir. So in that book, he had mentioned that he was an accidental filmmaker. My first encounter with the city it led me to many things, but not to cinema. But of course, he wrote a book, a very thin book on Charlie Chaplin, I think in 1950s. And then he began to make film. Raat Bhor in 1955, Neel Akasher Niche 1959, Baishe Sraban 1960, Punoscho 1962, Abosheshe 1963, Pratinidhi 1964, Akash Kusum 1956. But these films, many of them were good, but not outstanding ones. But during this period, we find that the Pather Pachari was released in 1955 by Satyajit Ray. And Ritik Ghatak had also directed Ajantrik in 1958. So he was almost third, but quite a distant third. The breakthrough came with Bhuvan Shom, a milestone in Hindi cinema. Interview was released in 1971 and became a talk of the town. In fact, as you know, while the interview was released in Kolkata in 1971, we were then students, and we had the opportunity to see the film and also attend the discussions. I can remember that at Jadavpur University, there was at Vivekananda Hall, there was a program in which interview was shown, and Mrinal Sen came himself, and gave, his own reflection about the cinema. And at that point of time, another film was released by Satyajit Ray, Pratidandi. But, Pratidandi, the great film, but at the same time, we were at that point of time, young people, young men with, sort of, leftist ideas. We were in support of Mrinal Sen because we could not take it for granted that the protagonist of Pratidandi would go to a Mofussil town and take a job and leave, city of Calcutta, where everything was happening. But here we found that the protagonist of Mrinal Sen, he was very much in Calcutta and was turning into a kind of an activist. So this is the background. If I think all of you have seen the film. So the film starts when in Calcutta, there was at that point of time in 1969, the first United Front government. In fact, in 67, there was one government, United Front, but it was not being called United Front. Or you may call it first United Front, then 1969, second United Front. This government was established in 1969, non-Congress government. And the Minister of Public Works, Mr. Subodh Banerjee, who belonged to SUCI, he had started a great work of removing these statues of the British, uh, uh, British officials and, big people, who used to rulers. These statues were taken away from the center of Calcutta to, some kind of a museum and all that. So the film starts with this. And then we find the information that this young man, Ranjit Malik, who was working in a magazine, weekly magazine, is not a very good paying job and quite, time consuming also. He got got an offer in a Scottish-owned farm where one of his close, relations were working there, or maybe close friends, father's friends or something, working there, and he had arranged for him to get a job over there in the sales department. And his work was not much, he has to, for the interview, he has to go there suited, booted, and speak English, of course. And then the smartness will give him the job. But the real thing is that already, they knew this person was the secretary of the company, and he had already told the bosses that this person should be selected. And then on the day of the interview, the protagonist, he was looking for how to, tie a tie, how to get a suit, which he had in a laundry bandbox, the name of the laundry. And unfortunately, he went to the laundry to get that suit, but he could not get it because there was a strike. And showing these and other things, Mrinal Sen was showing the city of Calcutta at that point of time. So now, in a nutshell, like a Greek tragedy, he did not get the suit over there. He also arranged for another suit from a friend of his, but that he had lost in a crowded tram where there was a pickpocket. Somehow he could not get that suit also. He came home without the suit, and then he had to go to the interview board. And then he had no other option but to get himself, clad in a perfectly impeccable, Bengali dress, dhuti and Punjabi, kurta that people call in Hindi, we call it Punjabi. So he was an impeccably, furnished dress, and he went over there. And you can very well understand the moment he went inside, his relative was very much angry. Why he has come in a dress of a clown? And the members of the interview board were also very much, disturbed. Then the interview took place. He gave the answers quite well, but the job was not his. So he did not get the job. And then the job was quite alluring. So he was feeling, kind of disappointed at that point of time. And in a rage, he went out in the afternoon or in the evening maybe, to go to a shop, shop window, where there was a suited booted mannequin. He broke almost in a rage. He almost thought of breaking open the glass barrier, and he disrobed the mannequin, and he found that the mannequin was almost without any genital. So this is in a nutshell the story. So what happened? Mrinal Sen, I think he has very, in the most brilliant way, he has posed the dichotomy that exists in a society. The dichotomy is that, the political leaders are removing the remnants of British imperialism from, central Calcutta. And in that backdrop, the news of a job in a Scottish firm where there will be good salary, good promotion, maybe something else. So that was quite luring, in a middle-class family, I would say lower middle-class family. So this he wanted to show, this dichotomy was very much there. And then look at when this relative was describing how he found Ranjit Malik entering into the interview board, he said he was just like a clown. So a perfectly Bengali dress, a perfectly Indian dress, that is being referred to as clown. By whom? By a person who is almost a comprador bourgeoisie. So this is also a contradiction. So Mrinal Sen wanted to show all these contradictions and also his rage, the rage of the protagonist. But of course, he was no revolutionary. Sometimes in some books, I find that he was shown to be revolutionary. No, he was an ordinary young man seeking a job, a good job, and then he found that that was quite difficult because of so many obstacles in the society itself. So these are the few things, I have thought that, I should point out. One thing is this dichotomy, that is, the anti-colonial measures of the political bosses, and then the antithesis of the mentality of a young man in independent India, to his extreme, I should say, extreme form of happiness for getting a job like that, in a Scottish firm. So these things are very much very much important. One second, please. So, and then this clownish dress in an independent India, a person wearing a perfect Indian dress is being referred to as a dress of a clown. And then lastly, when he disrobes the mannequin, he finds that there's no genitals. So these are the things I think he wanted to place before his audience, that we live in a society which is very contradictory, self-contradictory. And that he wanted to show. And of course, he did not, he showed that this person becomes enraged. At the same time, he becomes, from now onwards, the person would like to be an activist. He's not at this point of time, but can become an activist because of, all of us, we become activists, not, reading Mao Zedong or Karl Marx or Lenin. We become activists from our own local self, location, circumstances. So that he wanted to show, I believe, in this film. And these days, I would like to make a comment also that these days, so many theories of colonialism and post-colonialism and anti-colonialism are being proposed by people who are living in the lap of colonialism or imperialism, and then, propagating and proposing various theories. So this contradiction of today can also be, found in the germ, or in the what he thought in this film interview. The film made quite a name for Mrinal Sen at that point of time in Bengal, and maybe all over India. I do not know much about the Indian reception of this film, but I must say in Bengal it became a film for discussion. In the tea stalls, in the university campuses, in the university canteens, classrooms, this was the talking point about Mrinal Sen's interview. And also he wanted to make some I would say make some points regarding the Godarian and the Brechtian way of looking at things, which was quite new at that point of time. So he introduced those things, the uh, alienation sort of um, theory. And also in this film, you will find that, he was making connections with the people's movements at various stages. At that point of time, 1969, 70, 71, Calcutta was really boiling. The young people were on the streets, there were revolutionary movements like the Naxal movement from Naxalbari. The campuses were almost, powder cakes, So this film was very contemporary from that point of time, and he had made a very important point. Thank you so much. Now we can discuss the film if anybody wants.
Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya, for opening out several points that that are important to discuss about this film, its revolutionary impulse. And thank you also for giving a background to the filmmaker before you began with the actual film. It is now open for discussion. If anyone would like to come in. Yes, Nikhila.
Yeah, just to kind of begin with a question, actually, because I don't remember getting it from the context. Sir, I wanted to know what is the time period this film is set. Is it of its times, or does it go back to an earlier period? Surely post-independence, but what earlier period? I just wanted to know. And my response to the film, I mean, technically such a sophisticated film. The idea of, the actor being recognized as a star on the bus, and him saying that Mrinal Sen is filming me. So it's like a film about a film that we are watching. So all those are such interesting and somewhat quirky kind of elements of the film, I would think. But in terms of what, as you said, what is it that drives this young man to try to destroy the mannequin? As we saw in the film, I mean, there is no discomfort to begin with working in the Scottish firm. He's ready to go along, perfectly with his father's friend's suggestion that he turns out in a suit. So there is nothing of the in the post-colonial context. There is nothing that is really wanting to decolonize, or I mean, none of those motivations. As you said, it comes from a very personal kind of a predicament. So in that sense, I was wondering if we can see this as political in terms of a larger, like, is there some move towards a larger mobilization, or is it something to do with one's personal predicament? There is a seminar right now going on in Jadavpur University Film Studies Department on Mrinal Sen and political cinema. So I was just wondering how you would respond to this film as a political film. I mean, just a few thoughts on these. Thank you very much for your discussion, sir, Professor Asoke Kumar Bhattacharya.
Yeah, just to add, just to add to
please.
what Nikhila was saying about the technical aspects of the film, I also enjoyed the intertextuality. He actually puts in a scene from Pather Panchali into this film. Just to show that, Karuna Banerjee is actually, and because he's saying, I'm not an actor, I'm an ordinary person. Only my mother, who is playing the role of my mother. She's not my mother, and that is, the mother from the one who has played the role of the mother in Ray's Pather Panchali. So that was also something very nice about, bringing in this scene also. Probably it was Mrinal Sen's homage to
Yes, I was just going to tell you it is his homage. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that thing is over there. It was Mrinal Sen's homage to Satyajit Ray. Number one. Number two, what Madam Nikhila has pointed out or wanted to know, it was released in 1971. And I remember that I was then a student of third year, maybe in engineering, in the Jadavpur University engineering faculty. So, and we were very much, not so much, but we were beginning to get involved in student politics and all that, from 1970 onwards. And so when the film was released in Calcutta, at that point of time, so there was a discussion and comparison between Pratidvandi at the same time it was released, and interview. And in Jadavpur University, one of the students' union, I think the Arts College Students' Union, they organized a seminar in which Mrinal Sen came and spoke about his film. I was present there. And for Pratidvandi also, I think they had contacted Satyajit Ray, but as you know, Satyajit Ray always was a little bit out of bounds. But Rudra Prasad Sengupta, a very well-known actor and director of theatre, he came and defended Pratidvandi. So it was, and at that point of time, as I was telling you, from 1966 onwards, Bengal was changing. There was a food movement in 1966, and that movement, took the shape of sort of a unity between two groups, one political groups, one led by CPI and the another led by CPM. They fought elections separately, but after the elections, they thought that they should unite. So the first, if you call it United Front, the first United Front government was started in 1967. But then there was some kind of, one might call betrayal, one might call whatever, that one of the constituents got, dissociated. And after 9 months of first United Front, the second United Front government came in 1969. And in if you can call it second United Front government, but I have always referred it to as first United Front. The previous was not that way United Front. The second was real United Front. They fought as the United Front, in the elections also. So there we find that Subodh Banerjee, who was the PWD Minister of SUCI, Socialist Unity Center of India, he was a very significant person from that point of view. Calcutta was full of statues of Uttram and, all the big British or Scottish, rulers. So he removed, the first thing is that is why, it was very significant that their presence is being removed from the city of Calcutta, from the central places of Calcutta. Maybe they were being, taken to some museums and all that. But in this background, and we have already discussed about the people's, movement. There was in the film also, you will find the cinema, the people working in the cinema halls. They were protesting for, hike of salary, for better, better salary structure and other things also. So these are the things, which were starting because the United Front came from the, the struggle of the people. So the interview was made in that background. And as I have already said, that although this is a self-contradiction, our society itself. A person would like to work in a, British firm or Scottish firm or multinational firm, and of course he might be a leftist. Here, of course, it is not shown. He's not a leftist. He's an ordinary young man. He was working in a press, and now he had got a chance of getting a well-paying job, and he was quite elated. And his family was also, his mother, his sister, all were very elated that salary would be better. They can have a better life. The girl was working in a milk distribution. The government of West Bengal at that point of time used to have those shops, and the salary was minimal. I can remember even my sister perhaps was working in one of those for some time. It was only 30 rupees per month. So she was in such a financial strait that she was working there in the milk distribution system. So family was, not very well off, and the young man was earning something. So the family thought that it would be a good time if he gets a job, because in our joint families, we do not leave a mother and sister when we get a job. So that way, I would say that, this contradiction is there. And also he might feel himself, he might feel himself akin to the struggles that is going on. Even he will find in one scene, one of his associates who was working in a factory or something like that, he was asking him, if you get a chance, but he was unemployed at that point of time, if you get a chance, please get a job for me. So there was no contradiction of getting a job in a British firm, in a Scottish firm, and then remaining, mentally. And when that was shattered, as I was telling, but we come to, and most people come to politics not by reading Karl Marx or British Engels or Mao Zedong. We come to politics from our own perspective, from our own simple, from our own, local circumstances. So a poverty-stricken family and all that, you will find many young people, men, women, they join politics. So that way, it was quite natural. So when he got disillusioned with this, he became sort of, very agitated, and that almost could take place in a situation in which he was become quite violent. So these are the circumstances, I believe. This is the contradiction in our own society itself, that still now, what Mrinal Sen had said, had shown that point of time. Still now, our post-colonial thinkers, who are they? Where are they sitting? Most of them are Indians. Many of them are from Bengal. They are dishing out theories on post-colonialism, sitting in the lap of imperialism and, their associates. Someone in England, someone in USA, someone in Australia. So this, I think, this tradition is going on in our society. And Mrinal Sen had the guts, to point this out, brilliantly in this film.
Yeah, thank you. Any other responses to the film or to the discussion until now?
Geeta, if I can come in
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, sure.
Just to make this point that sir, when you say the context in which the film is made, how the students are responding to this film, so it's a film very much of its times, as you rightly point out.
Yeah.
Today, when we watch this film, uh, I don't know if we can. I mean, as a viewer, I was trying to understand what or how to see Mrinal Sen as a political filmmaker. As you said, all these contradictions are coming out, but in terms of looking at this film from today's vantage point, or maybe the lens with which I'm approaching a film, calling it a political film, is somewhat different. So I'm thinking of maybe there will be some kind of mobilization or some kind of naming of the oppressor. Um, Really, none of this actually happens in the film. So I thought that maybe this is a political film, and then I was trying to place this film as that. But as you said, maybe some films are political from the context in which they are made. So one sees it, in that context, and it emerges as a political film. Maybe later, all these years, more than 40-50 years down the line, it may look somewhat different for us. I'm not using this as a kind of value judgment, but I'm only trying to understand how to look at Mrinal Sen today as a political filmmaker. That's all. So just that comment.
Yeah, actually, at one point of time, I even, with Mrinal Sen, when he made the film Chorus, it was in 1974 or 75, I believe, which was not having good audience. So a friend of mine, one of the best student leaders I've ever come across, Basho Dasgupta, introduced some of us to Mrinal Sen. And I even had campaigned for chorus, in the Calcutta Maidan, various other places, crossings, Calcutta cross, various, street crossings. I have, lectured on chorus. And I must tell you another thing. In 1972, there was a whole-scale rigging in the assembly election of West Bengal in 1972. And there was a real exodus of people from various, paras of Calcutta, localities of Calcutta, being, beaten up and, driven out by the goons, who were then, under the, patronage of the Congress party at that point of time. So we were also driven out from our university at Jadavpur. And I remember that we went to CPIM headquarters, because we were going to find out some solution over there. So we went there. I still remember it was 11th or 12th of March. I and my friends of Jadavpur, we went there, and you won't believe, Mrinal Sen was sitting on the stairs, just, from the street as you enter. He was sitting there, his hands were on his head, and he couldn't speak. So he was, in fact, from Calcutta, he became, quite, I think from interview onwards, he became quite, previously also, in fact, he was very much connected with the Communist Party when he was, in his 20s. So in his book, Always Being Born, in this book, he has shown, he was written about his association with Communist Party. So he was a politically active person, but his films were not that political. I think with Calcutta 71, it was taking a political tinge. And later on, Calcutta 71, of course, was more advanced politically. And then Padatik, it's one of his best films, I believe. Padatik was very political. And then Chorus. And then, of course, started his journey with other films like, Akale Sandane, Ek Din Pratidin, and those films, which were more socially oriented. But up to Chorus, he was absolutely political. So if you call Mrinal Sen a political filmmaker, I don't, as I was very much political at that point of time, and I had the opportunity to talk to him on, many occasions. We used to go and sit in his room, near Pia Cinema Hall, in his drawing room. We used to go and sit and discuss so many things. He was absolutely political during those periods, And so it started with interview and then became more and more political, I think, up to Chorus. Then he, of course, took another step that become more, to make films which are more socially oriented. So up to Chorus, I would say that he was quite a political filmmaker, the Bengali films that he had done.
Ajanta, please go ahead. Ajanta, you have unmuted. Would you like to say something?
No, Geeta, by mistake. Sorry, I was just enjoying the conversation.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Cherian, I find that Cherian is there. Can he say something, or does he want to say something? Yes, Cherian?
Yes. Would you like to say something, VK Cherian?
I think his audio is not connected.
Oh,
no,
okay.
We can hear you.
No, Cherian's audio he's talking about may not be connected.
But we could hear him speak,
Yeah, this is Anil here, Anil Srivastava.
Oh, okay. Hi, Anil.
Yeah, I missed a lot of your discussions, but it's very interesting. What I would like to know from Ajanta is his comments on Mrinal's turn into the new cinema, and with what you call, and I personally, we personally feel that in a way that was a turning point for new cinema. When he did that film. So
Bhuvan
could
Som,
you?
you mean?
Sorry.
Bhuvan Som, you mean?
Yeah, I meant on Bhuvan Shom only. So I think that, and Bhuvan Shom was a pivotal point in the new Indian cinema. Yeah, new Indian cinema, really speaking. In fact, I was privy to that moment when Arun Kaul wrote the manifesto for new Indian cinema, and Bhuvan Shom happened. Yes. So maybe it will be interesting to have your views on it, because that
actually
that's very often forgotten that. The formal beginning of new Indian cinema did not happen with Satyajit Ray. It happened with Mrinal Sen.
Yeah, you might say that. In fact, Bhuvan Shom was a brilliant film, I would say, and very different from the previously made Hindi films. It's a low-budget film, and here also he used some techniques, which were quite extraordinary at that point of time. And also the story, So in Hindi cinema, I believe, I am not an expert on Bollywood. I cannot comment on that. But I believe that the girl meets boy type of, cinema, that used to be, of course, we have Do Bighai Zameen and all those, but at the same time, the mainstream was different. So Mrinal Sen had developed a new stream in Hindi cinema with Bhuvan Shom. So this was his turning point. Yeah, definitely. This is a turning point. But but the film story was quite, I would say, was not that way left or revolutionary. It was more psychological. The big bad bureaucrat reformed by Rustic Bell. So it was more a psychological sort of thing. But that was a turning point. I fully agree with Anil Srivastav that was a turning point. And then Interview, so far as Bengali films are concerned, I would say that Interview was a film which made him almost a household name. Before that, he had made many films, so many films, and that were also being discussed. But, he became a household name from Interview. So that way, in Bengali perspective, I would say that Interview was when Mrinal turned into a political filmmaker. He made so many points, political points over there. The police lathi charging, so many shots were there. But he was not very much political in the content, which he became later on, particularly in Padatik. He was absolutely political. And I saw Padatik only a month back. It was a fantastic film made, because I was very much deeply connected with politics, from campus politics to street fighting to fleeing from one area to another. So I know the mentality of the people. But he never did that. But his film showed that he had very intimate relationship with the underground. So Padatik is a great film, I believe. And I could not see Chorus very recently. I had seen it enough number of times when I used to propagate for Chorus. But recently I could not find out, on the YouTube. So, and they say, at least Mrinal Sen said in his Always Being Born, that Chorus has been highly accepted by the audience abroad. So maybe that, he did, I don't remember so many things now, so I cannot comment on Chorus. But Padatik, Calcutta 71, Interview, these are good films, started from, marginally political to quite political. which was the chorus. Thank you so much.
Any more comments?
Geeta,
Yes,
just a
Nick.
quick question.
Yes,
to
Nikhila.
Sir. Sir, is there a difference between the Hindi Mrinal Sen and the Bengali Mrinal Sen? Would you see any difference between these two? And the choice, when does he want to make films in Hindi and why? And it's not like, he's straddling both these cinemas, language cinemas. So any thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, actually in his book, Always Being Born, in this book, he has explained, that he did Matira Manisha. And then it did not run well. So the producer lost, and he also had, even he did not know how to pay the fees of his school-going son. And they did not have, they had real good problem, to run the show, the family. Then Anup Kumar, another, actor, he was a relation to cousin brother of Geeta Sen, Mrinal's wife. So he came, he was perhaps bachelor, came and stayed with them. I have seen him, Anup Kumar, in Mrinal's house many years, 2 or 3 years maybe. I have seen him. So that way he could overcome his financial, and that point of time, as you said, that it was like a godsend. I can quote, in fact, very recently I was asked to write a article on Mrinal Sen. So he wrote about this. Like a godsend, a long-time friend of mine reappeared in my life. I was on my way to Pune to conduct a week-long workshop with the students on the Film Institute. I arrived in Bombay by the morning flight and was to board the Deccan Queen train late in the afternoon. I thought of spending the morning with my friend Arun Kaul, that Anil had just mentioned, originally from Kashmir and now settled in Bombay. He was a good planner, but always drew a blank. He had something up his sleeve now, a new plan. Without wasting a moment, he took me to his two-roomed office and threw me into a chair. On the table before me was a typewriter and a heap of papers. Then he came out with his new plan. I was to write a script based on a story I had told him long time ago. Script? Now? But I have to catch the train. You will. You have got 4 hours to type it out. 4 hours to write a script? An outline will do. 8 to 10 pages, maybe 12. Since I had mentally chalked out a concept of the script, which I had once narrated to him, he was pretty certain that working out a sensitive outline would not take much time, but it must be decently dressed in order to present it before a committee of decision makers. Who were these decision makers, I asked. He said he had already spoken to the chairman of a Government of India undertaking, the Film Finance Corporation, FFC. The chairman had asked Kaul to go ahead because the idea of a low-budget film was perfect for the corporation. So it was almost coupling. He was finding out, he was in search of a producer after Matira Manisha, and this, opportunity came, and Bhuvan Shom was made. But I cannot comment on his other Hindi films. I have not seen them. So I am very sorry. But, I have decided to make a full study of his films and his, on him. So later on, maybe it will take a few months, to go through all his writings. So I could, yeah.
What I'd like to say to you is, I think what you read out is a very, very pivotal paragraph in the history of New Indian cinema. I mean, and I don't quite accept your categorization, like Nikhila also was asking you that question, of Bhuvan Shom as a Hindi film, but I thought Bhuvan Shom was setting the stage for the New Indian cinema. So I would like to look at Bhuvan Shom as quite isolated, as quite pivotal in the start of the new Indian cinema. In fact, I think I've been talking to our friends here that maybe there should be a screening of Bhuvan Shom and discussion about the new Indian cinema, the emergence of new Indian cinema. And this paragraph, which I haven't read, that autobiography of Mrinal that you quoted from, is a very, very significant push that how it happened. Most people have forgotten because, after Bhuvan Shom, I don't think Arun Kaul managed to do anything significant, or he made a couple of things. But Bhuvan Shom was his great moment as a launch of the new Indian cinema. And I think actually Cherian and I have been talking about it. It's okay, can we get hold of the manifesto, the new Indian cinema manifesto, which actually Arun Kaul, that's the context of Arun Kaul's conversation with B.K. Karanjia, at that time the chairman of the Film Finance Corporation. So I think it was a very interesting part of the history as you look through it. And any elaboration on that, because most of us have forgotten about it. Most of us
I'm agreeing with you.
No, I know. That's why I'm saying to you, because most of us in the history of Indian cinema talk of Money Call, talk of new Indian cinema, talk of all the others. But
actually, you can see them, from another angle also. Ritik Ghatak and his term in the Pune Film Institute.
Yeah.
So these two should be coupled, and then we have the.
But you see, there are like the Sangam, in the sense that there were different rivers flowing in and they met somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was, again, during the Ritwik's time when he was the vice principal at the Pune Institute, and I don't think, but for Ritwik, we would have seen some of the stalwarts of the new Indian cinema. I mean, whether it is Saeed Mirza or Mani Kaul or a whole lot of things. I mean, but there was sort of almost a kind of a independent streams which met together in the new Indian cinema.
You're very
so I think that, and that somehow I find has not been covered by the history of the new Indian cinema.
Yeah,
we do get totally bogged down with Satyajit Ray, and I think Satyajit Ray was a very independent person, and his influence on the new Indian cinema was very marginal. He gave the credibility to the new Indian cinema. It made it possible to think of cinema in it. But I think the movement-wise, it was Mrinal and Ritwik's work at the Film Institute.
Historically, you might say, absolutely.
So it will be interesting to examine it, and especially since sorry for this intervention.
No, why sorry? This is
what you said. Something is very close to my heart, so that's why I said I'd reinforce.
Absolutely, I fully agree with you. And now the youngsters should be. In fact, I have got a book with me, Art, Cinema, and India's Forgotten Future by Rachana Majumdar. She has also commented on Mrinal Sen and Ritik Ghatak and all, and also Karanjia ji. So I have not gone through the whole book, so I cannot make a comment. But I was quite impressed with her analysis of Bhuvan Shom, but not so much with her analysis of Calcutta 71. No, because the people differ when they look at things, and they are looking at it after 50 years, 70 years. It was 1970 and 50, after 50 years. So the way I see an old man like me who had lived this time, and these young ladies who are writing now on cinema should be different, and we should appreciate. And I would ask, I would really think of youngsters, writing on cinema, on these, Renaissance subject. And as much as they will write, they will think, we will know what the young people are thinking today.
Yes. I actually, I'm a fan of talking films online, because basically it has brought to an old person like me, and I'm obviously older than you, perhaps. The old person, the whole lot of new film film studies people and filmmakers.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I think it is very important to look at, and especially at this moment in time when we are destroying a lot of those institutions that created that. I think perhaps a discussion on the new Indian cinema, and probably this, I don't know this book that you just mentioned. I'd love to know about it and read. Maybe a set of discussions on what caused the new Indian cinema to happen, what were the circumstances, and what made the difference.
Right.
And I think one of the significant thing about the new Indian cinema is it put the Indian cinema on the world map. It wasn't the Bollywood would brought importance to Indian cinema. It was the new Indian cinema. And even those who, and it was a movement as different from Satyajit Ray's films, which were appreciated by a very small elite, a critical elite in the world. But it was not looking at the movement that was happening. And I think the Bhuvan Shom and started a movement which really has placed Indian cinema to at parallel with a lot of other things. So it is worthwhile looking into it. And I was asked our friends here at Talking Films Online. So maybe think of a program, maybe get Rachana to
I do not know Rachana, but
what I'm saying, I'm sure they can.
Yeah,
I'm saying as the author of the book, to get her to talk about Bhuvan Shom, get somebody like Suhashini and others who are involved in it. And I don't know about where, who else is there and alive at that point in time to talk about that, because that was a particular moment in time. A lot of things happened which turned the whole thing around. It was pivotal in that sense.
In fact, while working at Jadavpur University, I had the opportunity to have some connection with Suhasini's elder sister, who was in Canada. So we invited, I have forgotten the name. But about Suhasini, she was married to a person and who was also, near to me in Delhi. And then what happened? But Suhasini can really write, because she was in the process of, making,
No, since I know Suhasini quite well, I mean, I've sort of, Suhash is good storyteller. She'll be able to, I mean, she was there. I mean, she'll be good to have it on the session. But I think getting some people who have looked at the new Indian cinema, looked at Bhuvan Shom, and talk about it, and then see how it, and also this whole thing that you mentioned about the institute. That institute at that point in time played a very interesting role. The film appreciation classes and all that, which we have all forgotten. All of us have forgotten outside. I mean, people don't. So it was that is what needs to be brought out if we have to have a second, second revival of further revival. And I think there is a lot of things that's happening. And whichever sessions I have attended at Talking Films Online, I've been very impressed by the kind of new film studies people who have come up.
Of course. These are the exercises, when young people would come up with new
and very, I mean, I would say very deep thinking about films, and even that. So I think it'll be good to look at Talking Films Online as a group to look at new Indian cinema and use Bhuvan Shom as a kind of an opening gambit.
Of course.
And get Suhash, get this other author. That
it is a very good research topic, I believe. Very good research topic.
It'll be good too. Okay, I've talked too much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anil, for your support to TFO and for your suggestions. We will certainly think about it. And there is a comment from Avantika Gupta. She says, in the coming weeks, may we discuss Thappad by Mr. Anil. It's a personal request, just exploring an opportunity. Yes, Mr. Cherian, please go ahead.
I am caught between two friends, so I thought I would add Ashok and Anil are all dear friends. In fact, I had a experience last week. SRFTI person trained person, filmmaker, who is teaching in Delhi schools, suddenly called me up and said, there is a book of Feroz Rangumwala on Indian films, history of Indian films.
I see.
Yeah, so he asked me whether I can recommend it to him. So I said, look, little I know about Feroz Rangumwala. He was more of a chronicler of Bombay, Bollywood films and the star system there, more than the history. There is a lack of information or documentation about I think the whole new film movement, which Anil rightly said, that made Indian films in the global map. It is not the Bollywood. Bollywood may say now that we put Indian films in Bollywood. It is way back in 70s, which the new wave of Indian films which got noticed. If you see any of the journals, Sight and Sound or Film Quarterly of those days, which I have some of the copies, they're all full of articles about anything on India is about new wave in Indian films, which of course Mrinal was the initiator, as rightly said by Anil and Ashok. And my only difference, Ashok, is that I feel Mrinal's political films, including Interview and Calcutta 71, is not as strong as the genre of films which is started with Ek Din Pradin. Because that, I think, was much more hard-hitting, much more intense in its approach, in its narrative, and than the political thing. Because he was making a statement, political statement. That's fine. But as a film, you have, you need to maybe for the contemporary situation in Bengal, it was very important. But when you look at now, it's like, it's one of the things. But films like Ek Din Pradin and onwards, all the films of Mrinal, like Bhuvan Shaw, they stand the test of time, which the political films, for some reason, I'll say, that's my personal this thing, that some reason it doesn't. His own other better creations are there. And so when I say Interview or Calcutta 71 or Chorus, I think that it's okay. He was finding his, well, he was struggling to find his place in the creative field. And then Bonshom, I think, showed him in that space, but he came back with Ek Din Pradin, and I think he sustained it. I met him when he celebrated 90 years of age, and he was still raring to go. He said the bank has offered him 2 crores. I can make 2 films out of it, but I don't have, my health doesn't permit it. So that kind of man, till the end, he was raring to go with his ideas and films. So, but I think he has rightly, Anil said that the new Indian cinema needs to be documented, how this whole thing did. Because when I was researching for my book on Film Society, I came across a lot of instances. In fact, I can attempt one, but it's a huge effort, So, and especially the role of FTI, as Anil, from Adur to Mrinal Sen to Girish Kasaravalli to Manikal, Kumar Shani, all of them from the 70s product. In fact, I have a cube from Adur, in one of these flights or something. Subhash Ghai was Adur's batchmate, 1 or 2 batches up and down. So Subhash, asked Adur, with my films, I am not given FTI a bad name. He was asking Adur whether he has given a bad name to FTI. So that's a kind of their own people, people who went to the industry, the commercial films. They keep FTI experience very dear to their heart, and they really owe everything to FTI. So I think the FTI is, that 61 onwards, that needs to be accounted for and documented, and the contributions. Not only in Hindi films, if you see that the way Hindi film narrative.
Adur himself was a Ritik's student.
Yeah. So
and he did such marvelous things in Kerala.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that FTI's role, the new Indian films, and in fact, recently I was writing I'm writing a book on the renaissance of Malayalam films.
Yeah.
And I realized that it's a there are very few creative people, but the FTI trained cinematographers and technicians, they really change the narrative. The way films are seen in short and also accepted.
Yeah.
So I think we are at loss to understand that portion. People are not still documented it. I am sure one of the academics can do it. I know in JNU recently there's a book by a JNU research scholar on the history of I think public government support to film industry, and she was more concentrating on FFC, Film Finance Corporation.
Exactly. Yeah.
So such isolated efforts are happening. I'm sure some more people will look at it.
Cherian, I think Ashish Rajyadraksha.
I'm sorry. I think Tarkeshwar had unmuted.
Oh, please. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question related to the film.
Yeah, Tarkeshwar.
Basically, out of curiosity, the first scene of carrying the statues in the truck establishes a kind of contrast to the entire narrative. And it's a very important scene. My curiosity was it a real thing that was shot and used in the film, or it was reconstructed for the film?
No. It was real. In fact, Mrinal Sen had the habit of, going out and filming so many things, and later on he used in his film. So he has written, in his Always Being Born, that, he had done that, in many instances. He used to go and, film, police lathi charging, real, police lathi charging on the down stages. And then he would use it. So those were real shots, not for the film. This is my hunch, but I shall, we will have to check. But I think it is, because at that point of time, we were in Calcutta and we were young people. And these uprooting and, taking away, we were very much in the scene. So I think that this is when he used to go and film those things and then used it. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a message in the chat box. Ira Bhaskar has written about FFC and NFDC, Nikhila says.
This is in the Routledge Encyclopedia of Indian Cinema. There is a chapter in which she documents this. So she's looking at the various institutions that supported parallel cinema, including FFC, NFDC, FTII.
No, I've read that, and I quite agree with you, Nicola. But if you really look at what's fascinating about whether it is about the documentary movement or whether new wave in France, there's a lot of material which is at a very informal level, at the level of interaction that happened, thing. And I think since that is not captured, and I think there is a need to capture that, because FTI or even FFC and FDC, the formal role they played was there, but there was a lot of informal or non-formal role that happened. The kind of meeting that some of you have attended, the film appreciation course, for example, or the archive with an open door that if you were a filmmaker, if you're interested in films, you can walk into it literally a government institution, and for them to say, okay, here's a film, you want to see it, go and sit and see it. And in fact, I remember almost competing with Saeed Mirza. Saeed wanted to see one film, we wanted to see another film, and we made a compromise. Okay, we'll see what he wants to see. So that openness of an institution, in non-formal, informal openness, the relationships that were there, and which was mainly caused by people like Mrinal and people like Ritwik Ghatak and people like Nair, people like Satish, other people in the institute. That is not captured in Ira's book and other things, where the formality is captured in the chapter. But the informality of the movement, how the movement kind of fed into each other, it will be a very, very significant thing to talk about. And then start doing like this thing that Ashok pointed out from Mrinal's book. There's a lot of those incidents. I mean, the interactions that were happening at the Institute. And if we can capture some of them, and we are fortunate enough to have people like Adur still with us and others. So there's a lot of those stories, the home movies of the whole movement, which might be good to capture it while we still have some of those people around, and which will be lost. I mean, and it's not the formal story of the institution. I don't care about FTII as an institution. I care FTII as an environment, but I was never at FTII. I was not a student. I was not a faculty member. I was just happened to be a bystander and visitor. But it was an open door policy where anybody could come in and interact. And there was a tremendous amount of interaction that was available to people and these courses that happened. And I think some of it, and Nicola, you have attended, I believe, and others. So it'll be good to sort of, capture the spirit that caused the new Indian cinema, established the new Indian cinema, and went. And this is where it's very important. I tend to agree with Cherian on Mrinal's work as a filmmaker, that I don't think Mrinal was the great filmmaker of the caliber that Satyajit Ray was, for example, as a craftsman, or as radical as Ritwik was. But Mrinal and Ritwik together really stirred the pot to a point that it was possible to think of Adur Gopalakrishnan, it's possible to think of Saeed Mirza, it's possible to think of all those, and it was possible to influence people like Karanjia and others at Film Finance Corporation to support it. So those various strands are very important to capture. If we have to hopefully recreate, hopefully this will happen again with the new generation and things. So that is what the spirit behind it, rather than the regulation and what happened. I think by creating a Film and Television Institute of India without that spirit will be empty. Creating NFDC with all the things NFDC can have will be empty. Where the whole thing was that there were people willing. Karanjia, for example, is a very good example that he was not a film aesthete. When you really look, and he was not all that interested in the art of the film. I mean, to some, but on the other hand, he was willing. People persuaded him. He was willing to support it, and his support for Bhuvan Shom really opened a whole faucet as such of funding, which went into from Film Finance Corporation to the cause the new Indian cinema as such to him. So that is what's very important to capture, and I hope that some of your TFO's new film studies people will sort of probe into that and write about it. So because there is not enough documentation on the new Indian cinema as a movement. I mean, there is about the films, there is some filmmakers, there is, but not the how it happened. And I think it was a movement. I mean, it was a movement, and Ritwik and Mrinal were very key players in that movement.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions about the film? Madhurima, Ajanta, Sridhar. No. Okay. Yes, Madhurima, please go ahead.
Yeah, the film was really interesting. So I will just point out one or two things related to the film that are my observations or the aspects that I liked about the film. So I like how it represents the category of Bhadralok in the film. So the film represents the Bhadraloks as a heterogeneous category. It shows the clash of values present within the community itself, how their values and aspirations both converge and diverge at specific points. And if we consider the time period during which the film was made, the 1970s, so then the crisis in the Bhadralok aspirations that has already set in. So I think the film beautifully captures that that ambivalence within the Bhadralok category. And this ambivalence, the aspect of ambivalence is very well portrayed within the representation of the protagonist. So I also find there is a politics of time that is kind of there within in the character when he mentions that this concept of chakuri, that is the job, official job, that is ideally a colonial concept, and Bengali attire, these two don't go together when he proclaims that. And what Nikhila ma'am was talking about regarding whether the film has any post-colonial political agenda within it, it is a very interesting thing to discuss, because in the character of Shekhar, we find when he was very busy in tying up the tie, in one act, he talks about how this tie and coat, this doesn't really go with the Indian culture and Indian environment. But he is also ambivalent, like his act of, his sartorial choice of going to the office in an Indian dress, this was not really a motivated political act. Because I would think that from if he was selected, then from the next day he would not have any problem in choosing the Western attire. So the film is really interesting and it poses a lot of questions. So thank you for recommending the film. And thank you, Asoke, for the discussion.
And I think Madhurima has very rightly pointed out the dichotomies, So I very much agree with you. Yes, that is what the Bhadralok culture was. And
I want
still
to,
now maybe. Yeah.
good evening, sir. I want to add, I was not able to unmute my mic before. So first of all, thank you to all of you. It's really a pleasure listening to kind of stalwarts. And I was going to say, Shumit Sarkar also has a great article, I think, about precisely the idea of chakri and, the also the role of the the woman who desires kind of Western luxuries and how that forces her husband into the government job. And so I say, I actually thought of Battle of Algiers, and that comes out in 1966. So here, like Nikhila, I was also wondering who is actually the oppressor, and there's of course a very complex dynamics. But if you think of a film like Battle of Algiers, once of course it is a native dress, the idea of what is political cinema, and also critically the role of women. So I think for me also, and I also want to say, so I am actually quite a fan of high theory. So I found your comments quite provocative. Rachana, I think, is quite closely associated with that school of thought as well. So I don't think they are simply dishing out colonialism. I think that was a little unfair, perhaps. But I wonder also one of the criticisms, or not criticisms, so feminist film theory of the 70s or before has also raised very important questions about form, what constitutes politics, who is, and especially a certain left definition of politics. And Jadavpur University would be part of that definition. So as we look back on that era, it was a heroic era, no doubt. But should we not also factor those questions, and clearly questions about gender that have been foregrounded by, amongst others, Gayatri Spivak, is an epochal question. Who is the subaltern? So I'm assuming, sir, she was also one of the imagined kind of, people that you were referring to. So one, I love the film, but also it is a film very much about a male protagonist. So what happens if you have a woman who takes center stage? And Battle of Algiers for me was a kind of nice counterpoint. And I have not been participant to that kind of enormously significant moment of history. It was a privilege listening to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ajanta. Would you like to respond?
That's what she has said is very relevant, I would say. So the protagonist could have been a woman also. But at least when we are discussing a film, we are discussing what it is, what it could have been. That is, to the imagination we can leave. So that way, I think the comments are very important and relevant. And a person looking into films of Mrinal Sen should look from those angles also. And she has only pointed out Gayatri Chakravarti's Spiva. In that, not only Gayatri Chakravarti's Spiva, but the Partha Chattopadhyay, the Diptesh Chakravarti, the Homi Baba or someone, these people, they have been giving various theories of colonialism, post-colonialism, anti-colonialism, sitting in the lap of colonialism and imperialism. So sometimes, I find the same dichotomy in their theories. So that is my comment on Spivak's. But of course, Spivak is a great thinker. I have no doubt about that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, in that case, we will bring this session to a close. Thank you very much, Professor Asoke Bhattacharya, and for the discussion. Thank you all very much for logging in and participating. See you next Saturday with another film. Good night. Have a nice Sunday.
Thank you,
so
Bhattacharya.
much. Yeah.
Thank you,
everyone.
Professor Bhattacharya.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Good
you so
night.
much. Yeah.
Bye.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.